Alright, welcome to our in-depth preview of last week's video. This is to give people that are more interested in my reasoning and whatnot behind how I price things, how I came to the conclusion that the price should be what it was, the type of items that I'm putting up on the auction house, why I feel the necessity to even bother trying to sell them, things like that. Alright, so just like last week's, we started off with this amulet, the Ancient Deed. It has some base damage, 17 to 31, a fair amount of intellect, and a healthy amount of vitality, and pretty nice life on hit stats, 543. So, because we don't have too many ways to sort, I'm going to sort the three major stats. And obviously the base damage is just a bonus. I like to put lower numbers than what our stats are. Generally, depending on how high the number is, anywhere between 10 and 25 points lower. Also depending on what the stat is. So we're looking at life on hit 450 even though we have 550. Vitality 95 even though it's like 115 or so, and int we dialed up just about 30 to 35 points less. That is actually the piece we ended up pricing against. That piece does add dex as well as strength, so some defensive properties on that piece. This one pretty freaking close to what we got. So far neither of these three have had base damage, but I mean the base damage is significant, but it's not like a ridiculous amount of base damage, so whatever. Basically those first 3 to 5 pretty comparable to what we had. Like I mentioned in the first week's video, we could have priced it a little higher than what the other guy had, but as you can see, it was toward the middle range of its duration. Yeah, right there, 11 hours and 3 minutes. That tells me that nobody really gives a crap about buying those stats. So if we priced it more, it would sit on there and rot away. So we're going to beat that guy out, and ours is better because of the base damage in my opinion. Unless you're looking for those defensive properties as well, if you're trying to use it for Act 3, although I wouldn't really farm with that on Act 3, depending on what defensive properties I needed. Anyway, so there's that item, guys, and we'll move on. Alright guys, next up we have the Hawk Eater that we're going to have a look at, and this is some extra footage that I didn't put in last week. This is the footage of me checking the real money auction house before actually selling it on the gold auction house, and we will see why I chose the gold auction house. It does have, what was it? It was over 40 critical hit damage. I do believe it does have a socket, so potentially it could have life on hit with the socket or even more crit hit damage. So first we'll have a look at adding has socket with just the 40 crit hit damage and a little chunk of vitality. Whoop-de-doo. We'll cross-reference some things. So far it doesn't look like anything over like 10 bucks and equivalent, so that's how quick I switched over to the gold to get some prices. I think it looked like the best we were going to get was like 5 to 8 bucks for that thing. So as you see, we're kind of sifting through the gold auction house. We're max buyout 2.5 million, looking for some equivalents. We still haven't factored in stats on top if we filled that empty socket. I'm not liking these prices, obviously. They're more equivalent to the prices in the real money auction house. So we're going to take the has sockets out, and we're just going to pretty much justify that socket as critical hit damage, and then get some better pricing. Sifting 3.5 million. It's not looking good, but luckily ours does have life after each kill. For Demon Hunter, I'm not sure. They hit things more than once before it's dead anyway, so it's almost equivalent to life on hit in a sense if you're one-shotting everything anyway. So here was the closest one that we ended up pricing against. And like our stats say, they filled up their empty socket as well. We are going to go a little higher, 15 million, just to double check we're not like gypping ourselves completely. And that guy had like 200 vitality, so yeah, there's no way that we're comparable to these. Yeah, he's got a freaking star in there, which is like almost $2 alone, if you think about it. I think we're gonna sort, yeah, life after kill, just for ha-has, and we're gonna take the max buyout to 15 million still. So this is like the stuff that I didn't show you in the previous video, stuff that not everybody needs to see to understand, but I don't mind doing an extra little video like this to just to kind of fill in the gaps that some people might have. Is that the null arc? No, the null arc was a little different. So, and like I didn't show you in the last week's video, I actually started this a little bit higher, and before the 5 minutes had passed, I sifted through even more and decided that I was asking probably pretty too steep. That, or you know, I just wanted to kind of sell it anyway. 10 million for that bow is pretty high, considering you can buy them in the real money auction house for what's equivalent to 2 or 2.5 million in real money, gold wise, you know. So I'll be happy doubling or even almost tripling what I would have done in the real money auction house in equivalent to gold. So I'm just kind of sifting through, and I mean, there's nothing. I just like being thorough. There's no real explaining. Sometimes I just check to see what is going for 650 million. Not that they would ever sell it for that high, but we went back down to 10 million just to kind of triple check. Yeah, this is where I take it down. I decide, too steep. Nobody's gonna buy it for that much, considering the other items that were up there that they could get before mine, or for just a little bit more money, gold. So, yeah, star. Let's take that and revise it. And the revision is in the last week's video if you hadn't seen it. We'll end this one with that, and we'll move on to the next. Alright guys, Executioner's Splitter. We got 273 dex, pretty high. Some regular crit hit damage, just 41%, and some attack speed, which will make that thing swing a little bit faster. Let's have a look at where we go now. So we are gonna sort, filter, whatever you want to call it. 250 dex, 40 crit hit damage, and we're gonna look through the DPS to find the one close to ours. With I want to mention this. With the way that stats turn out, I figured we would sort monk one-handers, that because monks can use that same weapon, and we could also compare the prices of the fist weapons as well within our queries. I think it's best to kind of, whatever you feel class the weapon would be intended for, you would search equipment for that class. That way, like I'm looking at this one right now, the fist weapon, wanted to get a decent, comparison across the monk board. I'm not going to try to explain that anymore. If you don't understand what I just tried to say, leave a comment and I'll try to explain it in greater detail. We ended up selling this one on the real money auction house, and these are some of the queries that I had made on the gold auction house before deciding real money auction house. This is the part that I didn't show in the video. I guess we're looking like between probably 4 and 12 million, maybe 30, but even that's a little steep for something that doesn't have a socket or life on hit. So I'm almost positive it's not going to sell for 30 million. So switch to the real money auction house and we'll have some looks. We dialed in a significantly lower number of dexterity, like 50 points less, just to kind of get the ups and the downs around our item itself. This one has life on hit, so we can't ask $95 for ours, obviously. And this one would be a bit closer. I'm going to put in some attack speed just to see where that falls in. Because, I mean, if you're getting 8% attack speed on a weapon, it does, in my opinion, buff the item quite a bit. So that one was just under 20 bucks, that axe we just looked at real quick. And it did not have the same DPS as ours. Alright, so there you go. The Grapple Wrath, even though it's significantly under our DPS, it does have a star in it, and it is at 1 day 11 hours, so I'm feeling like that's pretty close. This one is even closer in DPS, the Sly Relic, and I don't know why, but I guess I'm going to sift through some more stuff. So now I took critical hit damage as well as attack speed off to just see if I can find our DPS and see where the lowest price is, which is about 28 bucks. He's got 12 hours spent with 1 day left, but obviously I would consider the crit hit damage a little more significant. That piece looked pretty close DPS wise, but I do intend on making more than $35, and it wasn't quite the same. So I flipped through these really quickly, sorry guys. I think this is where at this point I was thinking, I want to price this right. I don't want to sit on it, but I do want to make some fairly good money. So we'll go back to the crit hit damage and that Sly Relic. That's what we're going to price around. There you go, guys. I'll put a link to last week's video on the last part here, and hope you guys go and check it out. Thank you for supporting my channel so far. Hope you guys enjoy. For the results, make sure you go check out my other video, last week's week 1 Still Bloody auction house series. Alright guys, thanks. Stay tuned for next week's video. It'll be coming up here shortly. Thanks guys.